Now at 5, details on a proposed expansion project of Highway 69 bypass in southeast Kansas. Plus, Carthage High School gives students a chance to work on their interview skills with the reverse career fair. And
the federal government has a message for people who have been misinformed about crossing the southern border next week. I'm Willie James Inman in Washington with details on that message from leaders as well as alternatives for those hoping to enter the U.S.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Some Crawford County residents today gathered at the Crawford County Courthouse in Girard to hear and share their opinions about a proposed Highway 69 bypass. This is KOAM News at 5. I'm Jalen Banks. Kansas Department of Transportation officials were at a Crawford County Commission meeting earlier today in Girard to talk about a project that would create a new Highway 69 bypass. KDOT officials say they are again looking for public input on this project that started in 1998 and is back in public light. County residents were both for and against the idea of creating a bypass further west of Highway 69 that would go around Frontenac and Pittsburgh.
If you're going to spend $400 million plus to buy up 19 miles worth of property that's going to displace about 500 acres of farmland and homes, that's a ton of money that I don't think needs to be spent, especially when you could reuse the existing corridor in which Crawford County businesses are already established.
KDOT will be at several more meetings throughout May to discuss the project. They'll then look at the input and determine their next steps. Residents can catch them in Pittsburgh on Tuesday at the commission meeting at 5:30 in the Law Enforcement Center. The Missouri Department of Economic Development is handing out $75 million in industrial site development grants to 15 projects statewide. $1.5 million is going to Carthage. It'll be focused on creating industrial sites to support business expansion and attraction. The grants couldn't be more than 50% of the project's total costs. The rest had to come from local investment. High school is a time for students to start seriously considering what they want to do with their lives. But rather than host a traditional job fair, Carthage High School turned that idea on its head with the reverse career fair. Rather than students going around to booths set up by employers, the students create booths, finalize their resumes, and work on their interview skills.
I think it's very important just because these kids get to make mistakes when they're learning these skills. They're making mistakes and they get to learn from those mistakes without the harsh reality of being in a workplace.
Community members, school staff, and administration, and even other students were able to stop by and interview the students. And now Chief Meteorologist Doug Ketty joins us.
Well, it's actually turned out to be a pretty good Friday for us today. Temperatures great. A lot of mid and upper level clouds have streamed through over the past couple hours. A great shot of the satellite. And there could be a couple random showers that pop up this evening, but most of us are going to stay dry. All the severe weather's kind of north and south of us for this evening. 70 in Stockton, it's 74 in Miami, it's 73 in Parsons. It's a little breezy out there. We're getting these southeasterly winds at about 10 to 15. These winds are actually going to pick up a bit as we go into the weekend. Through the evening hours, get outside and enjoy it. Dropping through the 70s, 60s. We stay in the 60s for overnight lows, but a lot to talk about. Near record highs this weekend. Thunderstorm chances the next 8 days. Severe threat each day. Also staying warm. We're going to break it down for you here in a bit.
All right, we'll see you then. The pandemic era policy known as Title 42, which allows for the government to quickly expel migrants to prevent the spread of COVID, ends in just 6 days. That has prompted a surge of migrants heading north, hoping to live and work in the U.S. Reporter Willie James Inman is in Washington with the Biden administration and what they are doing to prepare for what they're calling a crisis.
Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas delivered a message to migrants hoping to enter the U.S. when Title 42 comes to an end.
The message is very clear. The border is not open, it has not been open, and it will not be open subsequent to May 11th.
The pandemic-era policy that allows the government to expel migrants to help stem the spread of COVID will expire next week. When Title 42 ends, there could be as many as 10,000 border crossings a day, nearly double the 5,200 daily average in March.
The challenges will be significant.
Officials warn anyone entering illegally will not be allowed to stay.
That, coupled with increasing in criminal prosecutions, will allow for the rule of law to prevail on our border.
To handle the increased flow, the Biden administration has increased the number of appointments migrants can set up via apps. There have also been centers set up in Central America so that migrants can avoid making the dangerous journey north.
We are reaching the people where they are. It is not only our security obligation, it is our humanitarian responsibility to cut the smugglers out.
Republicans have criticized the Biden administration for allowing Title 42 to end.
We will go back to Title 42, but most importantly, we will stop catch and release and we will start catch and deport. That is how we will get illegal immigration taken care of.
The White House says America's immigration system is broken and it's up to Congress to fix it. Willie James Inman, CBS News, Washington.
Individuals caught entering the country illegally will be deported, barred from re-entry for at least 5 years, and face potential criminal prosecution. Pressure is growing on Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas over a new report in ProPublica. It reveals the same conservative activist who paid for vacations and bought his mother's home also paid his grandnephew's private school tuition. The report says Thomas failed to disclose the tuition payments for his grandnephew, who he was helping to raise. His defenders say the rules don't quite require it. Still ahead, a mixed bag with the latest job numbers.
The jobs report comes in better than expected, but with a notable caveat. I'm Astrid Martinez with the new numbers and what they say about the economy.
And next in Health Watch, the World Health Organization announces a major change in its response to COVID-19. Topping today's Health Watch, researchers at the Albert Einstein Cancer Center in New York are developing a topical antibacterial drug combination for cancer patients who have skin problems. Acute radiation dermatitis affects about 95% of people undergoing radiation treatment. Doctors hope this low-cost treatment can prevent the most severe cases and help thousands of cancer patients. Today, the World Health Organization announced it is ending the emergency it declared for COVID-19 more than 3 years ago. The announcement doesn't change much since many countries have already ended their states of emergencies and lifted most public health restrictions. Next week, the COVID public health emergency declaration is ending in the U.S. Reporter Michael George spoke with the CDC doctors about what this means and the future in the fight against COVID.
It's a turning point in the 3-year fight against COVID. On May 11th, the nation's COVID-19 public health emergency will officially expire. But CDC Deputy Director Dr. Nirav D. Shah says that doesn't mean COVID is gone.
Does this at all change how the American public should treat COVID?
COVID-19 remains a risk, even though the public health emergency is coming to a close, especially for Americans who are immune compromised.
What the end of the public health emergency means is a shift in how the government fights COVID. Free tests won't be as readily available, and the CDC will no longer collect state and local data on COVID cases.
Dr. Shah, why now? Why is the public health emergency being ended?
There are a few reasons. The first is that the nature of COVID-19 is different now than it was 1, 2, or 3 years ago. Because of the work of getting vaccinated, getting tests available, and getting therapies, it's not the acute emergency that it was before. That's a good thing, even though it remains a risk.
But the CDC says it will continue to track the disease using data from labs, hospitals, and emergency departments. And doctors believe by testing wastewater, they can detect future COVID outbreaks quickly. Michael George, CBS News, New York.
The CDC recommends people over 65 and those with compromised immune systems keep up to date in their COVID-19 booster shots. That's a look at today's health news. A little later, how movie theaters could be the most impacted by the entertainment writers' strike.
Plus near record highs as we head into the weekend, but plenty of chances for thunderstorms. We're going to look at that coming up. Well, it turned out to be a nice Friday for us today. A lot of sunshine during the morning hours, mid and upper level clouds during the afternoon, but temperatures great. Most of us mid to upper 70s for afternoon highs, and we're going to continue to warm up as we head into the weekend. Nice shot, Indigo Sky Casino and Resorts Friday evening. The evening overall looks pretty good. Get outside and enjoy it. No rain today. With the rain yesterday, very much needed rain, 1.3 inches. Well, we had 1,700s earlier in the month, but pretty much all that fell yesterday, but we're still almost 4 inches behind. Plenty of rain chances. We need to get it as we go through the next few weeks. We don't want to go into the summer with a severe drought that we're still in. 74 in Nevada, 75 Anderson, 77 in Grove. Chanute sitting at 73. Let's go outside. Here's 7th. Here's range line. 73. Visibility is at 10 miles. Humidity is 66%. A little breezy. We're getting these kind of southeasterly winds. Now, these winds are going to pick up over the weekend, and because it is still dry outside, you probably don't want to do any burning as we start to get gusts pushing 30 for us tomorrow afternoon, tomorrow night, and then again on Sunday we're going to have winds gusting near 30 miles per hour. If you do want to get outside this evening, it looks great. We drop back through the 70s into the 60s. We only bottom out into the mid 60s for overnight lows. All right, look at these mid and upper level clouds. We can't rule out a random shower popping up, especially our northern counties as we go through the evening hours, but most of the Central Plains look pretty good. We do have severe weather, parts of Nebraska, and then also down through parts of Texas, and that's where it's going to stay as we go through the overnight hours. Look at this big upper level low. It's going to shoot little chunks of energy at us for the next several days, and what that will do, especially in the month of May, it's going to give us chances for showers and thunderstorms, kind of increasing a bit each and every day. Let's step through time. Isolated shower, northern counties through the evening hours. Everybody else, we look fine tonight. Mid 60s for overnight lows. As we go into your Saturday, look at this. Lower 80s by noon. We push 90 for afternoon highs. So it really gets up there tomorrow afternoon. All right, tomorrow night's interesting. Thunderstorms central parts of Oklahoma, and a few of these may try to get in our southern counties. If they get in, most likely will be severe. So we need to watch that tomorrow night. On Sunday, we could get a few pop-up thunderstorms in the morning. Then the afternoon looks pretty good, still warm, highs into the upper 80s. Then we do it again. Sunday night, a few little straggler storms could get in here as we go into Monday morning. So we need to keep our eyes on that as well. But majority of the weekend looks to be dry. 80 by 11, 87 by 3, 88 by 5 p.m. And then look at this next week. We're going to stop it each day. Monday, thunderstorms. Tuesday, thunderstorms, severe threat. Wednesday, thunderstorms, severe threat. Thursday, you get the idea here. So we have thunderstorms each and every day. I think our best chances for severe weather are Tuesday through Friday. We stay warm, highs into the 80s over the next week, but even if we don't get, I mean, nobody wants severe weather, but even if we don't get severe weather, we need the rain.
Yeah. I mean, even in terms of just having those graphics up there, that's probably the most consistent we've had in a really long time.
It really is.
Which in the 4 states, it's like flipping a coin pretty much every day.
It really is.
All right, thank you, Doug. Coming up, a better than expected April jobs report, but with some troubling signs. Topping today's Consumer Watch, despite some high-profile layoffs recently, the job market remains better than expected. But there are signs hiring could slow down soon. Asher Martinez reports.
Many businesses continue to put out the hiring sign. The Labor Department says restaurants and bars added 25,000 jobs in April. Healthcare also brought on 40,000 workers. And several states are experiencing record low unemployment, including Mississippi, where this job placement firm is seeing higher demand.
We can definitely notice the uptick here of people wanting to work.
Overall, the U.S. economy added a better than expected 253,000 jobs last month, and the unemployment rate ticked down to 3.4%, a 54-year low. But the positive numbers come with a caveat, because revised data for February and March show hiring was much weaker than previously estimated.
I think the labor market is actually in transition right now. So we are seeing that job growth is starting to moderate.
Growth is moderating because many corporations are letting people go. The e-commerce platform Shopify is cutting 20% of its staff, and 3M, the company behind Post-it notes and Scotch tape, is laying off 6,000 workers globally. The murky labor picture complicates the Federal Reserve's strategy of raising interest rates to slow the economy and inflation.
The Fed doesn't want to say this out loud. What they really hope for is job losses, the unemployment rate rising, and wage growth moderating.
This week, Chairman Jerome Powell indicated a possible pause on future rate hikes, but insisted the board will boost rates again if needed. Astrid Martinez, CBS News, New York.
Movie theater companies will likely see the biggest impact if the Writers Guild of America strike isn't resolved. Movie theaters have low credit ratings and less financial flexibility compared to most studio and television network owners, which makes them more vulnerable. The Writers Guild is striking over pay, employment levels, and the changing way in which shows and movies are distributed. TurboTax will pay $141 million to taxpayers who could have filed for free. Payments are part of a 2022 settlement over online ads that sent customers to TurboTax's paid service. Millions of Americans who were charged for tax preparation that should have been free will get settlement checks from TurboTax beginning next week. The settlement is for those who filed returns for tax years in 2016, 2017, and 2018 and were eligible to use TurboTax's IRS free file program but ended up in a TurboTax paid program. A final check of the forecast next. Up next on the CBS Evening News, Steve Hartman takes us on the road with the story of an artist using envelopes to make a big impact. Then on KOAM News at 6, we'll have more on how Southeast Kansas residents feel about a proposed Highway 69 bypass project. Plus, Special Olympics Kansas hosts a Victory Day event at Pitt State. And Missouri Southern opens up the MIAA baseball tournament against Newman. We'll have highlights. Stay with us for CBS Evening News and then KOAM News at 6. Tomorrow is Kentucky Derby Day, and there's one unlikely contender that's a strong favorite. Reporter Nicole D'Antonio introduces us to a woman behind the racehorse who could trot away with the crown.
From the hustle and bustle of the nation's capital to the serenity of a Virginia farm.
I'm Gator. You got your big head in the middle of everything.
A high-powered attorney has come full circle. Amy Moore retired from practicing law in 2016 and moved to Southgate Farm, but says life has not slowed down very much.
Well, it hasn't been too much of a retirement because it's a fairly demanding job, but it's a much less stressful job.
Moore grew up around horses and started riding at 6 years old, but once her career picked up, she had to put her passion on pause.
After a few years, I got too busy to have anything to do with horses.
After leaving law, Moore says she went over budget buying her first horse named Queen Caroline. Taking that bet has led to this weekend's odds-on favorite to win the Kentucky Derby.
You don't wake up and think you've bred a grade 1 winner right off the bat.
That wasn't a feeling you had?
No, I hoped he would be successful.
Forte was Moore's first foal bred from Queen Caroline, and now Moore says she's feeling a different type of stress, but it's all worth it.
I've enjoyed it.
You may change your mind when you're watching Forte race.
Well, that might be stressful.
That may be pretty stressful. Moore is hoping for a hero's return to the farm for Forte, but says she's already filled with pride.
It's kind of a dream come true for me. Whether he wins or loses, I think he's done a lot. He's been very successful. I'm very proud of him.
And the pride is on full display all over the walls of her office.
We're running out of room.
As Moore hopes for another win following the most exciting 2 minutes in sports. At Southgate Farm in Millwood, Virginia, Nicole D'Antonio, CBS News.
Yeah, I haven't watched the Derby before, but now since I just saw that, I may have to check it out.
Yeah, it's I'm not a huge fan, but I've seen Secretariat and, gosh, what was the big one?
Seabiscuit?
Seabiscuit.
Yeah.
But,
all right. What we got going on in weather?
Near record highs as we head into the weekend. We could get a few thunderstorms tomorrow night and a few more popping up on Sunday, but overall, the weekend looks pretty good.
Yeah, that we're pushing 90.
I know, that's
awesome.
crazy.
Well, thank you for joining us. The CBS Evening News is next, and of course, we'll be right back here at 6. We'll see you then. Let's make it a great evening.